Now, a Sky News investigation has tracked down a witness who sounded the alarm 2 years before one of the UK's biggest paedophile rings was brought down. A gang of Glasgow drug addicts are in jail for almost a century for arranging child rape nights as part of a 7-year campaign of sexual violence against children. They were known to authorities and on the Child Protection Register. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Our correspondent Gillies joins me now. He's been investigating this and has done a big report, which you may have seen earlier on this hour. But Conor, we wanted to come back to you to talk to you a little bit further about this because it is a truly horrific case and it does beg the question of how these people got away with it for so long.
Absolutely. Good morning, Anna. This is a truly horrific case and some of the details are simply too graphic to even talk about on the television at this time of the morning or at any point, actually. Let's remember here, the main responsibility, the main blame here lies with that gang of paedophiles, the 7 strong men and women from here in Glasgow. The abuse started at their hands in 2012 and they weren't arrested. The gang was not busted, unravelled until 2020. But over the years, it could be suggested there were a series of red flags and warning signs, alarm bells that were ringing around this physical and sexual abuse that was happening. Let's remember, these children were, as the court heard, all under 13 when it happened. Many of them, a number of them, would have had interactions with the education services and the schooling providers. They were also scavenging around for food, as we heard in court, but also the testimony in the Sky News investigation today, and also that evidence you heard from the man earlier on this hour that we tracked down, who suggested that he had spotted head lice on one of those child victims in 2018. Let's remember that was 2 years before this gang was unravelled. Regular social work visits here, and the children latterly were on the Child Protection Register. So how can it be that children are raped on a regular basis, abused on an industrial scale, but yet sit on a register that is designed to protect them from harm? Well, all of this is forming part of an inquiry, a learning review that's happening here in the city of Glasgow.
Well, yes, and it's not the first time we've heard of a review into a scandal, is it, Conor? A lot of people watching might ask, why does nothing seem to change?
Well, yeah, in cities across the UK, across the world, there's outrage whenever this type of scandal, this type of paedophilia is exposed and talked about in the media, in the courts, in the justice system. But time and time again, there seems to be a review that is carried out and that phrase, lessons will be learned. As I say, this type of review, these learning reviews that are not judge-led, they are multi-agency, bringing together the police, the social work, the education department, and all those types of organisations to review exactly what happened. But the question is how effective they actually are. And in many of these instances, when we look back at the recommendations from these reviews, are that there needs to be better communication between all of those authorities. So will that be the case in this instance? Well, this was an inquiry that began in 2023 when this gang of 7 were convicted here in Glasgow of the most grotesque crimes that were branded monstrous by one of the UK's leading child protection agencies. And in Scotland, we are told that these reviews are being examined to avoid the repetition, that cycle of the same lessons being examined at the end of each of these cases and them coming up time and time again. There has been a commitment by the authorities here in Glasgow to implement in full all of those recommendations. But the main question is, how on earth did this gang of paedophiles manage to operate in plain sight here in the city of Glasgow for so many years, apparently unchecked?